March 1963. 75 miles off the coast of Puerto Rico. While training in anti-submarine maneuvers, the United States Navy's fleet, led by the USS Wasp aircraft carrier, detects an unknown sonar target moving in the nearby waters. For 4 days, the fleet tracked the unknown object, recording its speed at more than 150 knots, or 170 miles per hour.
There is nothing in any naval inventory anywhere in the world that can approach anything remotely that speed, not then, not now. Moreover, the object descended to a depth of something like 27,000 feet. Again, another impossibility. The pressures down there are vastly too much. They would crush any vessel that went down that deep.
That time, the technology that we had, the best that we could do underwater was about 45 knots and a maximum depth of about 3,000 feet.
For the last 100, 200 years, there have been many, many accounts of objects that have been seen underwater. But exactly what they are, we still do not know.
There's been a tremendous surge of UFO sightings in Puerto Rico since the early 1990s. And for many of the Puerto Rican witnesses, they're absolutely convinced that there's some sort of massive futuristic installation deep below Puerto Rico under the ocean bed.
Is it possible that aliens have bases here on Earth, hidden deep underwater, and off the coasts of islands? Could this explain why so many islands around the world have stories of unexplained sightings of objects both overhead and beneath the sea?
Isolated islands would be a perfect location for, say, extraterrestrial beings to make their base of operations. Radar could spot any kind of craft in orbit very quickly. However, if you had your base underwater, near an island, a lot more difficult to be discovered.
Islands are essentially mountains that are mostly underwater. What they are in essence is energetic upwellings of the energy of the Earth pushing higher and higher and higher. Logically, these types of locations would be very attractive to visitors from another world, especially visitors that would be looking for an ideal place to set up a base or a landing spot or simply a place where they could draw some of the Earth's energy.
The Aleutian Islands. Just off the Alaskan coast, this chain of more than 100 small islands extends west for 1,100 miles, separating the Bering Sea from the Pacific Ocean. Here, in the summer of 1945, 14 crew members of the United States Army transport Delaroff reported seeing what they believed to be a large UFO emerge from the waters near the island of Adak.
It's reported that a round object that appeared dark against the setting sun at the time actually rose up vertically into the air and then circled the boat 2 or possibly 3 times and was visible for about 7 or 8 minutes before it vanished.
Something that comes out of the water, circles around, and then takes off like that. That's well beyond anything we're supposed to have. And they're in the middle of the ocean. That's the important thing to remember here. There's just nothing that's supposed to be there, and yet there's activity being reported there.
December 1974. Cambridge University professor of astronomy Dr. Chandra Wickramasinghe publishes an article in Nature magazine that sets the scientific community abuzz. For decades, the mainstream viewpoint has been that life on Earth spontaneously arose from a so-called primordial soup, or organic compounds in the planet's primitive oceans. But scientists are still uncertain as to just how life would have been able to develop from inanimate matter. Instead, Dr. Wickramasinghe suggests that life didn't start on Earth at all, but was delivered to our planet on meteorites and comets. The concept is known as panspermia.
Every single textbook on biology that we would have studied maybe 10, 20 years ago starts with the story of the primordial soup. There is no evidence for this at all, and so the alternative to the primordial soup theory is that life did not start here on the Earth, but came from outside.
There are two types of panspermia. One, which is just panspermia, which suggests that life was carried on the backs of comets throughout the universe. So it's a natural seeding of the planets. Now, the second term is what's called directed panspermia, and the definition behind that is that an intelligent technological species on a distant planet deliberately sent out building blocks of life to particular planets. So the idea is that Earth, perhaps a long time ago, was seeded by extraterrestrials.
For decades, mainstream scientists have dismissed the theory of panspermia on the basis that life could not survive the extreme conditions of space. But a recent discovery could prove that notion wrong and possibly provide physical evidence that panspermia not only occurred, but continues to affect life on Earth. Milton Keynes, England, March 2019. Ancient astronaut theorist Giorgio Tsoukalos travels to the Open University to meet with planetary scientist Dr. Queenie Chan.
Dr. Chan?
Giorgio.
Hello. Great pleasure to meet
here.
you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you so much for bringing me here.
Dr. Chan recently analyzed 2 meteorites recovered in 1998 and discovered something incredibly unexpected: a salt crystal containing liquid water. Giorgio is eager to find out what the implications of this discovery could be, and if it might provide further evidence that life on Earth was seeded by extraterrestrials.
So here we've got a box full of heavy meteorites.
Oh, wow.
Within a stony meteorite, we've got something called the chondritic meteorite. They are interesting because they have organic materials in it. The meteorite that I found extremely interesting, special, 2 meteorites actually, Zach and Monahan's meteorite. They are both ordinary chondrites, but they are not ordinary. They both fell to Earth in 1998. And what's more interesting is both of these meteorites have salt crystal. That stunning blue coloration to them. More interesting is within these salt crystals, we found water, liquid water inclusion within them.
I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. So you're telling me that you found meteorites that actually contain liquid water in them. What would you say to someone who would argue that maybe the water entered the meteorite after it fell on Earth?
We were lucky because they both fell in a dry condition, and they were retrieved really quickly once we observed the fall. So it was not contaminated by the rain.
Okay.
Shall we have a look at it in the clean lab?
Yes, please. That would be amazing. Absolutely.
Before they can examine the meteorite sample, Giorgio and Dr. Chan change into protective gear that will keep the laboratory sterile.
All right. And so this is it.
This is it. Shall we have a look under the microscope?
Yes.
Trying to move that in focus now. There it is. I'm going to enlarge it on my screen. This is it. You're looking at a speck of water in a meteorite. This is the first time that we found amino acid with water.
This is extraordinary.
The the Solomon Islands. 800 miles east of Papua New Guinea, this group of nearly 1,000 isles covers 11,000 square miles. Though first discovered in 1568 by Spanish explorers, many people identify this area with World War II due to the fierce fighting that occurred between the Japanese and Americans on the largest island here, Guadalcanal. In a campaign that lasted over 6 months, a total of 41 warships were sunk, and over 30,000 men died either in battle or from disease.
The Americans and Japanese, they left behind a lot of the remnants of the war. Ships that were sank, for instance. And then on land, you have leftovers of tanks and a lot of ammunitions as well. There was a place close to where I went to school called Hell's Point, and it's full of live ammunitions.
But Guadalcanal is also infamous for something else: the countless local legends of giants.
There are mysterious legends all over the Solomons, actually. A lot of the stories in Guadalcanal tend to talk about giants, the relationship between people and giants. Giants are often portrayed in different ways. Sometimes they are benevolent giants. They help people. They look after people. But there are stories about giants killing people and taking over things. So giant is a major character in a lot of the Guadalcanal stories.
There are legends and stories that go way back that suggest that giants actually still live on the Solomon Islands. Some say they're kind of hairy beasts, Sasquatch-like kind of beings. Others say they're more humanoid. And some say they even relate and kind of mate with the human population.
According to local legends, those giants were able to travel the entire length of the island without seeing the light of day by utilizing subterranean tunnels.
People talk about it, that giants actually do exist. They existed in the past. Today, with all kinds of developments that are taking place, they shift further into the mountains. They really do exist. It's not just a mythology to scare children.
According to one report, in 1998, workers during a gold mining operation witnessed what they believe is proof of the existence of the giants of Guadalcanal when one of their bulldozers broke down. The workers say they removed the 10-ton blade from the machine to make overnight repairs. And when they returned to the dig site the next morning, they were shocked by what they found.
The blade itself had been moved quite a distance, and they found footprints of giants in the mud. So they could only assume that these famous giants of the Solomon Islands had been there and moved the bulldozer blade.
Could Guadalcanal really be home to giants? If so, what are they? And where did they come from?
The Australian author Boyron believed that incidents of the giants that he had been told about by the natives were related to UFO activity. And from what he could put together, there was some kind of UFO base deep in the mountains of central Guadalcanal, and it involved these giants. And at the same time, there was some kind of underwater UFO base there as well.
In the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, just south of Sicily, lies the Republic of Malta. This tiny island nation boasts some of the most impressive megalithic structures on the planet. And crisscrossing the islands is something even more mysterious: a complex network of grooves carved into the bedrock, known simply as the Ruts.
Something that Malta is very well known for archaeologically, besides the megalithic temples, are the Ruts. These are ruts literally in the limestone rock.
We don't know what these ruts are. You could speculate it was for a wagon, for a chariot. No, it was not, because sometimes they came together. The width changes all the time, so it cannot be for a chariot.
If you have grooves that were created by some sort of a transportation device, well, it had to have been pulled by something. So where are the footprints? There are no footprints.
How and why the Ruts were formed remains a mystery, but their existence poses a profound possibility. Because some believe they may reveal that there was human activity on Malta many thousands of years before what has been suggested by mainstream archaeology.
We have ruts that go into the Mediterranean Sea, and then they also come out on the other side. How is this possible?
Some of the Ruts that extend from dry land down into the sea have reportedly been found at depths of as much as 140 feet. This presents a critical clue as to just how long ago they must have been created.
I suspect that some of these Ruts are really ancient, and when I say really ancient, that is going back to before the end of the last ice age. So approximately 12,000 years or so, the ice age ended, we know. Some of these Ruts going into the water, that would have been dry land when sea levels were much lower.
If you propose the idea that 12,000 years ago, which is a fact, the worldwide water levels were lower, then all of a sudden these Ruts that go into the Mediterranean Sea make sense. The fact that these Ruts exist, to me, illustrates that an advanced civilization must have existed at that time.
If the Ruts are more than 12,000 years old, as some researchers suggest, who would have been around to create them? It's a question that continues to baffle mainstream archaeologists. But according to local traditions, the megalithic structures on Malta were built by a race of giant beings who came to Earth from the stars.
We have to be open to the possibility that whoever built these were not in fact human beings, but were perhaps a separate race, and their existence and even their origins is completely shrouded in mystery.
Are the so-called Ruts that not only crisscross Malta, but extend deep into the Mediterranean Sea evidence of advanced otherworldly visitors? For ancient astronaut theorists, the answer is a resounding yes. And they suggest that the waters of our oceans not only contain evidence of extraterrestrial visitation in the distant past, but they are the location of encounters that are happening to this very day.